And welcome to Olivia's first channel interviewing some elite minds and some friends that I have here. Ryan, thank you so much for coming into my home.
Pleasure. Always love visiting you both.
So for those watching this for the first time, Ryan is a business consultant, investor in both businesses, property, real estate, and you're really helping what can business owners like scale their business for a life around.
Yeah, so I would say that I work primarily with service-based businesses, so unfortunately no e-com, and then work with anyone doing, say, sub 5 mil to help grow a business and build a life that they really love.
Awesome. I love that. Thank you.
I love talking about it.
Oy. And you left your 9-to-5 job. Tell us a little bit about your background, because you've got a bit of a background in marketing, right?
Yeah, so I kind of fell into consulting by accident. At the time I was working full-time for a software company, and I started out as a software developer, and then they probably realized that I spoke too much and I was really good with people. So was moved into a sales and marketing role. Worked with brands such as like Flight Centre, Coles, Fiji Airways, Destination Gold Coast, and then with regards to coaching and consulting, people just kept asking me lots of questions about life, business, money, and I realized that I could not meet up with everybody who asked me for my time and wanted to pay me for my coffee, because I can buy my own coffee. And so I thought, could I charge for this? I didn't know that this whole industry was billions and billions of dollars.
The coaching industry, yeah.
And then just, built it up over a few years before I then left full time. And the only reason why I stayed longer was actually to draw the mortgage out. And as soon as that was paid down, I resigned.
I love that. After. Mate, well done. You would have been my ideal client. If only I'd met you back then. I have a lot of clients who do that. I'm like, just stay in there for just another couple months, get that mortgage across the line.
Oh, and it was a treat, because by the time that I left, I had automated so much of my role and gotten down to working about 90 minutes to 2 hours a day, which meant I had the rest of the day to build my business. Which is awesome.
Yeah, smart. Okay, so the reason why I've got you here as well is because, well, first of all, you were my business coach when I first started to launch my business, and I can tell you right now, to invite someone into my home who is now an absolute legend in my life and a close friend of mine, you absolutely helped me scale my business. My business would definitely not be where it is today if it wasn't for you.
Oh, thank you.
In fact, even my partner started calling you Mr. Dumbledore, because we're like, fuck, this guy is so young and he's so wise for his age. We're like, hell yeah, you know a lot about a lot of different things about the world, and I feel like you're a very experienced person. The reason why I got you on here is because I feel like the way that you can translate the world that we live in such a simplistic way is a testimony to you, because it's a challenge. I think that a lot of people have to be able to articulate how the system is a bit of a rort, but you can also take a lot of advantages of it whilst when you actually fully understand it, and that's what I love about your brain.
Thank you.
And so
It's always fun getting together with you, Olivia.
Yes.
We go down many rabbit holes.
We do. What's one of the favourite rabbit holes that we've shared together?
Can we go there on this podcast?
Well, we're going there. Yeah, let's just do it. That's what the people are here for. They really want to hear how the game is rigged. Let's talk about taxes. I can talk about it more around from a property perspective, but I'd like to hear your input from a business perspective. Let's talk about how the tax system is completely rigged.
We have an entire society and education system that is designed to create employees. And so you go through school to then get a good mark so that you can go to uni and study and get a good job. And what that produces is a great employee who knows how to follow the rules, who knows how to understand things. It's only in the schooling and education system that we're taught that there's one right answer. In business and in life, there's 100 different ways to make $100 and lots and lots of different ways to tie your shoelaces, to brush your teeth, to do all these different things. And so if you understand that the system itself is flawed, then one thing you want to consider is, what is everyone doing? What is 90% of people that are doing so that you can then understand the 10% or look for the outliers, the people who are doing things differently. And I think fantastic book, if you haven't read it and you're listening, is The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. One of the very first entrepreneurial books I read. And the opening quote is actually one of my favorite things. I've always had this in the back of my mind. And it's a quote by Mark Twain. He says, if you ever find yourself on the side of the majority, it's time to pause and reflect. Right? So, and you know this from the investing and property world, is lots of people read The Barefoot Investor. How many people 6 months later kept up with all their money systems?
Too much.
Not many, right? Like, so you have people who are reading about personal finance, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, all these different things, but fundamentally their process or their system isn't changing. And the reality is, if knowledge alone fundamentally changed things, then the person who read the most books would be the wealthiest person in the world with rock hard abs.
So what's missing?
Well, it's understanding, I think, that if everyone is talking about the same thing, there's something else going on to look at. So if everyone else is talking about this finance hack, this way to make money, it's likely that everyone's going to end up somewhere which is average, mediocre. That's what's proliferated in society. And so you get a society that is sick, overweight, fat, sick, and nearly dead, right? Like that's the whole system. So just recognizing, okay, if I am falling into line with groupthink or larger ideologies, how can I pause for a moment, reflect, take a step back and ask myself, how could this look different? I think that's the first question.
That's such an important question. Do you think that business owners ask themselves that and take the time to pause and reflect often enough? Like how often do you do that?
All
do you
the
question
time.
that for yourself?
All the time. I think that's one of the things that I've connected on a lot is I asked you on one call, how often do you think about your mission? Right?
Probably 3 hours a day.
Yeah, and then some people are like, 20 minutes a week. I'm like, okay, well, if you don't know your mission, you don't know what's driving you in life, everyone else is going to try to tell you what your goals are. Everyone else is going to give you a vision and mission for your life, and it's often aligned with theirs.
I see that in the property industry. Like people are like, I need to buy my own home. First thing I ask them is like, so whose dream or mission is that? Whose dream is that to own your own home first? Where did you get that dream? Is it really yours? Or was it mum and dad's? Yeah, interesting.
It's so interesting. I over a period of time coached about 150 different network marketing leaders.
Wow.
And I remember in that space, for a while there, people got really excited about retiring their parents because one person had done it. So like paying for their income or paying off the mortgage. And I often ask the people, why is it that you want to do that? Oh, because my friend said it and it sounded cool. Okay, but does it actually matter for you?
Yeah.
Does it mean something of significance for you to pay off your parents' mortgage? Because if it doesn't, you're going to find ways to self-sabotage or not do it because it's not important to you. So the mission piece that you mentioned, I think is really important to reflect on.
Yeah. And like values, I think is not talked about much. So I realized, actually just recently I did a values test, Dr. D. Martini's value test online. Have you seen that one?
Yep.
Have you done it?
Not specifically, no.
It's so good. I loved it. Anyway, and the reason why I loved it was because I thought I was so sure of my own values.
Okay.
And then I did this test, and what it actually did for me is it highlighted the next following values that I was missing. Because I was just focusing on the top, top 2 or 3 values of mine.
What is your top one?
My top one is personal financial freedom. I must have that.
Yep.
Second one is impact. So I must feel like I'm making some sort of change to other people's lives. And then the third, but that really, the impact one really ladders up to my first one, which is I want to get them to have financial freedom because that's my top value. Yeah. And then the third one, which I didn't know was this high, was growth, so personal growth. And then I had to think to myself, of those values, like with growth, for example, I was like, what does that look like for me as well? And I thought growth was like going to opening up my mind and going to, I don't know, like seminars or, PD stuff, personal development stuff. But my version that really makes me happy and lights me up is something so simple, which is listening to podcasts.
Right.
Yeah, listening to people because I'm quite audio,
Okay,
right?
yes,
And I
yes.
loved just like taking in. I was like, what am I doing every single day in my life to make sure that I'm feeding those? And then the next ones after that, I realized I was completely neglecting them. So that enabled me to then shift my focus in both business and investing to say, okay, I need to incorporate more and talk to more of these values every single day.
It's so interesting that you say that because that's exactly how you taught yourself around property at the beginning.
Yeah.
Listening to YouTube videos, right?
Yep. 100%.
On your walks.
Yep.
Yeah, cool.
What's one way that you like to learn personally at the moment?
People watching. Watching
Why?
what people do, not what they say. Because
What do you learn
that
from
tells me so much about who they are. Because if we're largely driven by our values, then what I can also then see in someone's character is, are they someone who follows through and has a really strong relationship with themselves, their word, their follow through, their integrity, in which case they're going to follow through with what they communicated? Or are they someone who has lots of dreams, goals, ideas, whatever it is that they want to do in the world, but then is constantly fraught with self-doubt, second-guessing, questioning, anxiety, overwhelm, whatever it is that then stops them in life, and then they don't do it. I'm like, okay, cool. So you talking about writing your book, you haven't done anything for 12 months. You're a wantrepreneur, not an entrepreneur.
Oh, wantrepreneur. I haven't heard that one before.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think just watching what people do then paints the whole story of, cool, that's what you believe. Your partner, Tara, she loves low-tox things. Healthy, environmentally friendly, non-toxic things for the home. So her values then, when she's going out and shopping, that's an alignment for her. For a vegan, it might be, okay, cool, I'm not going to consume animal products. Great. That to me, regardless of the belief that someone might have, I'm looking for, does their character align with who they say that they are? That teaches me so much about life.
You're a very, very observant person, I'd have to say. Okay. And in relation to, let's talk a little bit, I want to round this back a little bit more to taxes, around the belief system of taxes as well. Just because a lot of people who are obviously following this as like real investor sort of mindsets as well. Let's delve into more the tax thing. Can you tell me, as a business owner, what's a couple of different ways that I can think about investing, and give a business owner, if you're a business owner here, give them one or two different hacks or tricks that you might know in terms of taking advantage of the tax system.
Okay, cool. Well, first most important thing to say publicly, disclaimer, is that I am not a financial advisor, and this is for purely educational purposes only. And don't sue me, sue Olivia.
And then not me. So none of this is financial advice. We are not financial advisors.
Go speak to your accountant, and I think first and foremost, to any business owner listening to this, paying for a good accountant is going to save you thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. Paying for the right advice, because people make the mistake of going for someone who is budget, a couple of years out, maybe working on the main street corner block, and they just do your returns. They don't ask you questions. They're not curious about your business. They're not across your P&L. Understanding that you can pay for really good advice is really important, and that would be the first thing I say. If we're then looking at businesses and structures, I just love business because when you get your head around it, it is an opportunity to maximize and play the game of money in life in a way that unfortunately you just do not have access to as an employee. And so the game is rigged against people who just have a 9-to-5 role. So everyone knows the game is rigged. right? Few people know that the game is rigged and learn how to play the game. And I think that's really important. If you can take anything away from this, is trying to understand the game of money. And then if we recognize, okay, cool, business itself can be this opportunity to essentially get access to your whole life, and to fund and maximize your... There's a term actually in business called PE ratio. Do you know what...
PE ratio?
Yeah, do you know what that stands for? So profit to earnings ratio.
Okay.
You heard of that?
No.
Alright, so I've kind of given my own spin to this, and basically it's profit to enjoyment.
Oh,
okay?
yeah, you do. Okay, now you're talking my language.
So how can you maximize the profit in your business and then still also increase enjoyment? So if you have two different businesses who have the same revenue, but one has significantly higher expenses with wages and all sorts of stuff, your take home might be a lot less between business A and B. Understanding your numbers then means that, okay, well, how can I cash flow my business in a way and build in as much margin so I can also enjoy my life without all the stresses?
Boom. I love that. That's very similar to what I teach people in property, in real estate. So how do we build wealth with ease? How do we build wealth with ease so that I'm getting the highest ROI on life? So for a lot of people, they come to me thinking, oh, I'm so aggressive, Olivia, let's go bullish. Oh, I want 50 properties, blah, blah, blah. And then when you realize what you actually need to, the output that you need to put out at the start and the effort that you need to go to grind, a lot of people, I'm like, but actually, do you need that amount of wealth and do you need to sacrifice that much now to get that amount of wealth? And how do you know that you're going to need that much right now? But what about if you could just meet the immediate needs in the first 5 years? Maybe it's, I need $200,000. But how would your life look if you had $50,000 of passive income? Then what could you do with it? Very interesting, right?
Yeah. And sometimes we have this conversation at lunch. Sometimes people are chasing the top line revenue figure without actually understanding all of the numbers. So as a business owner, you want to get educated on, cool, what are the current gaps in my financial acumen, in my understanding of my business, and how can I patch those gaps either by, a course, getting a good coach, working with your financial advisors and accountants and brokers to understand your numbers better, so that you can not only know the picture, but then work out a plan to move forward. Because sometimes, if we're chasing just revenue growth, more revenue also means more overheads, more staff. Sometimes you're growing a business, and I know a couple of clients who have these businesses that have subcontractors. The subcontractor gets paid more than the business owner.
Yes, I know. So many contractors get paid more than the business owner. That's wild. Why are you in the business then?
And then the subby can switch off at 5 o'clock, and the business owner's like up till 11 p.m. replying to emails. You're like, that is not my enjoyment.
Yeah.
Part of the equation. So just understanding what is it that you desire for your life, and it circles back to the mission. But people don't have a clear mission or vision for their life and their business. If you don't have vision, it's very easy to just fall into the mundane, the everyday, and just go through the motions of, this is what I'm doing this year, and my business has had 5% growth this year. I'm still working the same amount of money, same amount of time, earning the same amount, feels laborious. And so many people fall out of love with their business too. You don't have to fall out of love with it.
Why do you think that is for most people?
They're not connected to why they do what they do. Then it actually turns into a job. Yeah. Which is why they escape and start your own thing in the first place.
Yep. I felt that.
Yeah.
Right? You were helping me through that at the start of this year. I was just like, I'm grinding so much and I've just got all these calls and I can't keep up, and I wasn't self-regulated and I was just stressed out to the max, and I was like, what is the purpose of all of this? I don't want to do this. It's not what. And then it made me rethink about, the purpose of my business. And I realized that for me, the number one reason for my business was lifestyle. Because for me, I was focusing on the long-term investing stuff, and I realized that business can give you the lifestyle now, it can
Yeah.
really free you up
Yeah.
if you're able to work out the numbers, and you have obviously a service that provides quality service that's able to add value. So there we go.
And then in terms of specific tax hacks, I mean, probably the framework I think is more valuable to think about is how can I incorporate this lifestyle expense and add some business activity to it to make it worthwhile. Like that is a general framework that I think about. So for example, it's like, cool, the wife and I want to go to Europe for a vacation. Great. How can I attend a professional conference in Milan and then go meet some suppliers in Munich around, Oktoberfest? And then how can I take some clients out in Paris to a fine dining restaurant and have meetings and conversations? Cool. And then how do I record a podcast in London? So there's your
literally everything, Kay. I feel like there's a way in business that you could do just about everything.
Totally. Yeah, we were talking about an example before of a gentleman I follow who has built a dog toy accessory store.
Yeah, tell that story.
Yeah, well, he's doing $2 million a year. In the US, unfortunately not in Australia, but in the US they've got these cashback credit cards. So he runs every expense in his business through the credit card, and because the cashback, it's about 2%, nets him $200,000 a year. It's tax free, which is
because it's a cashback, not
Correct.
an income.
That's right, and so that is his salary.
Yeah,
and that pays for him and his wife to live in their home in the most expensive city in the US, which is San Francisco right now. Covers all their expenses.
What's the other most similar thing we can do? I know, we've talked about Amex Velocity Flyer. Like, if you're spending stuff on an Amex card on business, you're paying for those business expenses anyway. You can get it's not cashback, but in point version.
Yeah, so the points the way to think about it is then all your points have a dollar value to them. So I shared with you tonight that we used points earned through the business to book a cruise. Yep. Mm-hmm. So that's paid.
Did you book that cruise?
Yeah.
So you literally got a free cruise because of the points
Totally.
that you'd earned from the Amex through the business expenses.
And so it's thinking differently about every single expense in life and how can you maximize the dollar spent. What's the ROI on this? If you have to spend money anyway, you've got ATO bills and different things to cover supplies, etc. So can you leverage a tool like a credit card within your business to cover the expense? We're not talking here about mismanaging money. We're talking about how can we be smarter with how we're using our money. Which I love. I think, gosh, what is another perk? So on that train of thought, for those of you who don't have an Amex, one card to get if you're particularly interested in international travel is a platinum card. So an Amex Platinum will then give you, it costs $1,700 a year on the annual fees, which you can then claim back.
Australian?
Australian.
Yeah.
And you claim those back, and then you get $200 in dining credit domestically, $200 internationally. You then have travel insurance included, which is a nice perk.
Okay, that's nice.
You have your phone insurance covered, so if you crack your phone screen and it was bought through the card, then you have 24-hour concierge service. So anyone on call around the globe at any time, so say you lost your card in the back streets of Rome because you were robbed, you could have a card delivered back to you straight away.
I love how you know all these little hacks of different cards.
It's cool, and I think the other thing is it gets you lounge access and gets you hotel status automatically. And
once you start making the money, you kind of start to enjoy the lux of those things, right?
You do.
As well, and I feel like there's a level of like you get a bit of a taste of it, and you're like, ooh, I like this. I don't want this to disappear. Let's work out how we can keep this as well.
That was you in Bali, right? Early in the year when you guys came back in business.
Yes. I was like, this business class flying stuff is quite nice. How do I keep up with this? Yeah.
So that's a whole other game of maximising points, but business owners do it all the time where you just get free flight upgrades and different things. So you might as well travel in style. The one thing on my list is a jet membership.
No, we've talked about this, haven't we?
Not on the podcast, but yes, jet membership would be like 10k a year, and then you can have a jet fly anywhere on the east coast of Australia.
Cheap as. You're still going to pay the flights on top of that, so that's the membership, and then pay for the actual flights there and back. I've got to, because I remember you sending me the numbers. I was like, tell me the numbers, I want to know how much it was. And I think it was like from Brisbane to Melbourne, it was like $7,000 one way.
$7,000 for, 4 people, but if you turn it into an event or you had a VIP thing, I mean...
Hell yeah. Maybe used it for a bit of content as well, filming some stuff. Like, yeah, that'd be awesome. Maybe we should film a podcast on a jet. That would be so cool.
Or the yacht.
Yeah, I'm going to do that, definitely. My friend has a yacht down the road. I've just got to... He's like, you can come rent it out whenever you want. I'm like, thanks.
I love that.
Who doesn't want a floating yacht on the water?
And I think...
A floating office. Sorry, he calls it his floating office.
Floating office.
Yeah.
I think this is where it comes back to understanding what your own personal motivators are too. Because I like fancy hotels. I can't see myself camping, right?
Neither.
So that's not me.
No.
And for some people who don't, it's what we're talking about. It's not about having the Louis Vuitton handbags. If that is what you want, fantastic. Then you can go after it. It's trying to design your life in a way that makes sense for you and your family or your partner, or even just for yourself, but doing things that really light you up and not be bound by the constraints, I guess, of not having enough.
Exactly. Mine's human connection. So, and we're very similar in that way. I love the small trips to be able to go anywhere to any state. I'm just like, you know what? I just want to fly down to Sydney, go see my friends. I haven't seen them in 2 months. Let's just go down. I want to go back to, I'm always going back to my room every couple of months. Like, I want to do that and have the nicer hotel, but still, because I need to have that at the same time to fill my cup back up as well, or else I wouldn't be able to go down to Melbourne and stay with my friends and family. Gosh, no, I can't.
I was a different human during COVID because without that connection, pre-COVID, I was flying interstate every 6 weeks as a single person, like going catching up with friends.
Oh yeah.
And it was so fun. And I think you have the luxury, so emphasis on luxury, you have the luxury of being able to do that with your schedule because you've designed your business for maximum profit, but also maximum enjoyment. And as soon as it detracts, I would say, from if you're working too much and it was detracting from, we've had this conversation too, detracted from life, you would pull it back. Yeah, absolutely. It's not worth it. One of my values is the life getting the highest ROI in life. I've just had a friend who cancelled today for a business where she's got staff, and she's like, I can't come tonight to this, hanging out with some of you guys that I really wanted to meet. And she's like, I can't come because 2 of my staff just cancelled tonight. And so for me, I could never have a business like that. I need to have that freedom and flexibility, or else I won't like my business. Totally. And then you wonder, like, why are you doing it? Why are you creating all this stress and pressure for yourself? And I often say to people who are just starting out or curious about business, have the goal of crushing it and making something of it, because I feel like if you're going to put yourself through all the stress and all the pressure and all the uncertainty of being able to meet your wage, you may as well dream big. Because if you're dreaming for anything less than $100,000 in Australia now, I'd say less than 150. Like, honestly, I think if I look at most business owners if you've got a skill enough to do business, to scale a business to $1 million in revenue, but you ain't paying yourself any more than like 150K, you could probably have the skills enough to go and get a job. Totally. Would you say that? Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Between 100, 150K. Absolutely. Yeah. So I think it's so important to just take some time, design what it is you want. We were playing with our FU figures before. Yeah. FU money, but actually FU money, which we often come up with as oh, I need $10 million a year. No, you don't. You just
most people
don't know
don't.
it. You
No.
just pulled a number out of the air.
Yeah. And in property, it's so funny. I ask my clients the same thing. I'm like, how much cash flow do you need? And how interesting is it that people who earn $50,000 a year and then people who earn $500,000 a year, they all tell me the same thing, that they need $100,000. And I'm like, hang on, what does a person who only earns $50K now need $100,000? And why does a person who needs $500,000 need only like $100,000 as well? And it's interesting because the people that are earning like $500,000 a year, they can envision for themselves that like, hang on, I can actually, if I didn't have this job, what expenses would I no longer have to keep this particular 9 to 5 job? Like if I'm in Sydney corporate and I'm probably living in the middle of city and I've got high Sydney expenses, but then if I wasn't working, then I could probably move out. I wouldn't have the high, maybe I could homeschool my kids, no longer have, private schooling fees, no longer have all the additional cars, but it's interesting how more people think that they need more than what they've already got now when it comes to investing. And then, when you ask them...
That's a marketing thing, isn't it? Like, if you travel to Bali, you see people on the street who are happier than some of the wealthiest people you know. On the street with a t-shirt on their back. That's it. That's all they got. So, our system, a capitalistic system, is then designed to keep generating and turning over more desire, which is then fuels the desire for, oh shit, well, I'm earning $500,000, but I need $1 million. I need to keep up with the Joneses, right? Or Sue down the road and Sally, my neighbor, have this new BMW. That's what I need. And so I think our desires are skewed because they're heavily influenced externally. And if we end up placing our pursuit of success, or the metric of success, exists outside of ourselves, we are setting ourselves up for a world of hurt, because we then engineer our business to pursue something that isn't intrinsically generated.
Oh.
And then that's why you can have the business owner making $1 million or $2 million and hate their life. Making all the money, they don't have time for the kids, they're on the brink of divorce. Kids grew up hating their dad. And so then you ask yourself, like, was it worth it? Because in the process of making all that money, you also got super fat.
Like, how do you... Okay, so you've got a lot of clients who... high revenue numbers. How do you... What metric or what... what's the question I'm trying to ask? What metric or how do you distinguish where you now have built up a business to a certain revenue amount and you now need to shift to now focusing more on profit or the purpose of that business? Like, how do you... When is the right time for that equation? Or do you think it just comes back to your life and what's happening for you personally?
I think we all go through seasons. You've certainly felt it this year too.
Yeah.
Right? There's seasons where you can enjoy a lot of your business, and there's other times where it feels hard. Having that self-awareness with yourself and that time to reflect on the things that are most important to you. You said earlier, you think about your mission every day. So if at any point you felt like your business was not aligned to your mission, that is a time to pause and reflect. Steve Jobs had this question he'd ask himself every single day, which was, if at the end of the day, I think he'd ask himself in the mirror when he was brushing his teeth, was I happy with how today occurred? And if he went for 3 days in a row where he answered no, that was his way of forcing himself to re-engineer his day. And we can do the same with our businesses. We can let go of stuff. We can cut back expenses. We can change it all up. Sometimes we love our business, we hate the model. So we can play with delivery. This is what you're doing.
The model. Explain by what you mean by model. Because I have just gone through that a lot.
Yeah. So I think the way in which I think about the model is, what are you currently doing in your business that might, say, consume a lot of time, or the way in which you're doing it might be a cause of overwhelm or stress or headache. So for example, you could be an online teacher, facilitator, educator. You have information that you want to share with the world. Great. previously you were selling it in a one-to-one capacity. Well, there's only so many people you can help one-on-one.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have the vision of, well, I want to grow my business to $2.5 million. Great. The model, the delivery changes. Has to change from one-on-one to then group or a course. And I think this is part of what you've been going through as well around how can Olivia serve thousands of people rather than a few hundred.
It's a great problem to have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Then the world's your oyster, I think. The one thing that I've been working on recently is how do I make sure that I'm still providing a high level quality of service and that there's still a need there for what I'm delivering, and I'm still there to solve a problem for my clients as well. Yeah.
And then how do you deliver that to more people without the service declining in quality, right? That's always been your
number one priority. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always been like two different sort of worlds that I've had to play in. So like there's like the property world and the buyer's agents world, which I've never really aligned to. And then there's actually, there's the coaching sort of industry too, which also has a whole bunch of other ideas. So it's me just also needing to sit with all of these great ideas. It's like, which one actually makes sense for my customers, my clients, and the average Australian that I'm trying to serve and help build a portfolio? What is the right fit for them as well as me as well to continue to doing it for a long time? And then making sure that you have plans in the background as well if your business is no longer relevant in the future. Just making sure that I'm, for me personally, growing as well. That's obviously one of my highest values, yeah.
So if it detracted from that and it detracted from the quality of your life and your relationship, that's when you reevaluate what you were doing.
Yeah. Interesting.
And that comes from deep self-awareness, I think.
Very deep self-awareness. Hey? You got to do a lot of that work.
Totally, yeah. I like to say that business is the biggest personal development game.
100%.
You have to deal with people. You have to deal with yourself.
Yeah.
Clients, partners, everything. And the life is presenting itself with feedback. Presenting you with feedback all the time. The angry email, the negative review, the client had a great time, the client who left. Understanding all those different pieces of data and then trying to paint a story with that. I think I love that.
Actually, I didn't think of that. The amount of data and feedback.
Yeah.
The feedback is the data that you collect in your mind, like you're collecting every single day. Yeah, I never actually thought about how much that probably takes up like a lot of space in the brain as well.
Yeah, it's not just about how many people liked and shared your content. It's is that effective? Did that person buy? Did that person book a call with you? Did they sign up for your email list? The person who's in your DMs now, have you spoken to them in the past? Do you have a way of tracking that? How do you follow up with your people? How do you know your shit's working?
Yeah, how do you know? What are different ways that you can measure if your shit's working?
Are you getting cash in the bank account every
day? Number one. Actually, another one of my mentors asked me that the other day. And I said, the amount of clients that are happy to leave a review, provide a review. I think if you've got a lot of clients who are like, they just want to give you a review so much because you had like a good quality service. I have some clients still like messaging me sometimes because I'm a little bit busy at the moment. And they're like, when are you going to do this interview with me, Olivia, so I can give you feedback and do a video testimonial? Like I actually have like a queue of that lining up. I think that's an awesome measurement as well.
I want to take that a step further and say, how do you know that you're doing well at what you're putting out in the world is the number of people who can talk good behind your back.
Ooh.
Because sometimes...
Sorry, go on.
I was going to say, sometimes people too busy forget to leave the review.
Yeah.
But if they had to talk about you when you were not around to someone brand new, how would they actually describe who you are?
Boom. Right there. That's branding one-on-one right there. That is your brand, hey?
Yeah, for sure. Because that's the thing that stands outside of the shiny marketing campaign and the funnel and the slick website with some great copy. Like, how do people talk about you? Fundamentally, like, how do you leave people better off for having known you?
Yeah. It's a feeling, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a feeling.
Yeah. You don't, even if you don't work with them for a long time or forever, it's like, cool, did you have an impact on the person? Did you leave them with a smile? If you didn't, is there a way that you can resolve it, find a solution that works for both parties? And I think this is one of the 7 habits of highly effective people. One
I
of
have
them's
not read that book yet.
Oh, it's simple. A lot of the
Right.
principles you know, but one of them I think is it always tries to focus on a win-win.
Okay.
So if you win as a business owner and the client loses, or your customer loses, it's not a real win. Like, how can you fund the win for both parties?
I like that concept.
Which is awesome.
Mine is whenever I cross someone's path, I want them to feel comfortable knowing if they were to see me in the street, feel comfortable that they can walk up and say hi to me.
Love that.
But I don't want them to think, fuck, I want to run away from her. I want to go up and say hi to her.
Yeah.
Hopefully I put that out there. More than I don't.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell you this anyway, like you're just a beam of energy and positivity, you know? Like, I always see you in that when you're
I try.
in a room with someone.
Okay.
But it's not to say that you don't go through your own stuff, it's just you always try to bring people up. I think you do that really effortlessly, which is beautiful.
Oh, thanks, Ryan. Thank you. We're going to have so much fun tonight. We've got an event to get we're going to tonight. We're going to have heaps of fun.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you. Let's wrap that up. I think that was a good chat.
Beautiful.
Hopefully, I reckon there's a couple of good, valuable tips and tricks in there, and just some really good ways to think about life and business and what you're doing.
And again, anything we mentioned about tax, please go speak to your accountant.
Yes, non-financial advice. We're just some kooky people on the internet.